The metallic tang of brine and diesel fuel coats your tongue, a constant companion in the vast, echoing expanse of the port of entry cargo inspection bay. Here, beneath the skeletal ribs of towering gantry cranes, your breath plumes in the frigid air, a fleeting ghost against the colossal steel containers stacked like forgotten monuments. Each box, a potential vault of contraband or merely mundane goods, holds no mystery for you, Marcus Thorne. Not anymore. Your gloved fingers, calloused now from relentless friction against rough surfaces, trace the faded stencils on a shipping crate: origin, weight, destination. Routine, a suffocating blanket against the gnawing chill that has settled deep in your bones. Not just the cold of the bay, but the deeper, more pervasive ice of disillusionment. Years have carved lines around your eyes, etched a permanent weariness into your posture, a testament to the badge you once wore, the reputation you once held, now both shattered fragments of a life irrevocably lost. You prefer it this way. The ghost of the journalist. You remember the sharp intelligence in her eyes, the relentless pursuit of truth that mirrored your own, before it all turned to ash. Her name, unsaid, is a brand on your conscience, a constant, low thrum beneath the surface of your carefully constructed apathy. You do not look up immediately. Intruders are rare here, especially in this remote sector. When you finally raise your gaze, your eyes, sharpened by years of observation, quickly assess the figure standing a respectful distance away. A man, not in uniform, not a dockworker. His face, though partially obscured by the low light, holds an unnerving stillness, a quiet authority that prickles your skin. Marcus Thorne, the man's voice is a low, even baritone, cutting through the ambient hum of the bay. It holds no warmth, no judgment, merely a statement of fact. You offer no reply, merely a slow, deliberate turn, allowing your full height to convey a silent question. Your hands remain tucked into your pockets, a deliberate signal of disinterest, a shield against whatever intrusion this might be. A long way from the city's gilded cages, aren't you? He continues, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing at the corners of his lips. This solitude. Does it suit you? It pays the bills, you finally utter, your voice rough, and used to conversation beyond the occasional grunt to a forklift operator. You watch his eyes, searching for a tell, a hint of his purpose. They are sharp, intelligent, and unsettlingly direct. There are other bills, Marcus, he counters, taking a step closer, his gaze unwavering. Bills unpaid. Debts outstanding. Your jaw tightens. This is not a social call. Get to it. He nods, as if expecting your bluntness. The journalist. Her case. It's stirring again. The words hit you with the force of a physical blow, a sudden jolt that steals the air from your lungs. The name, unsaid but understood, rips through the carefully constructed walls of your indifference. Closed. Failed. Dismissed, yes. But never truly closed, the man corrects, his voice gaining a subtle edge. New information has surfaced. Information that points to a larger game. A very powerful game. You scoff, a bitter sound. Powerful games aren't played by disgraced detectives. They're played by the people who made me disgraced. Precisely, he says, and for the first time, a flicker of something akin to urgency crosses his composed features. The same people pulling the strings for a certain presidential hopeful. A prominent politician, whose campaign is built on foundations far less stable than they appear. Your mind, long dulled by routine, begins to whir, a rusty engine sputtering to life. And now, the threads she uncovered, they're starting to show themselves again. A pattern that links directly to the highest echelons, to an organization with a reach you wouldn't believe. He pauses, allowing the weight of his words to settle. We need someone outside the system. Someone with nothing left to lose, but everything to gain. Redemption, Marcus. Or simply, the truth she died for. He reaches into his coat, pulling out a small, encrypted data stick. It's sleek, obsidian black, catching the scant light. This contains everything we have. A starting point. Names. Dates. A coded message recovered from a deleted file on her old server, recently decrypted. It speaks of a network of influence and a key player named only as the architect. You stare at the data stick, then back at the stranger's unwavering eyes. The journalist. Her unfinished work. The injustice that had consumed your life. It calls to you, a siren song from the depths of your past. The possibility, however faint, of finally finding the answers, of confronting the architects of your downfall, is a powerful lure. The promise of justice, a long-lost dream, flickers to life. And what happens, you ask, your voice low, if I say no? The man's expression hardens, a stark shift. Then the truth dies with her, Marcus. The weight of his words, the ghosts of your past, the faint glimmer of purpose, they all converge. The choice is stark, the path fraught with peril, but the alternative is a continued existence in this desolate bay, haunted by what-ifs. The game, it seems, has just begun. The data stick, a sliver of dark plastic, feels impossibly heavy in the space between you and the other man. The silent container behind you, a hulking shadow against the dim light, seems to exhale the cold, damp air of forgotten things. Your gaze flickers from the device to the distant, churning gray of the harbor, then back to the unwavering eyes of the man who offered it. A breath, held too long, escapes your lips. The choice is a precipice, a plunge into the murky waters you swore you'd never re-enter. Yet, within the quiet despair that has been your constant companion, a defiant spark ignites. Not hope, not yet, but a raw, unyielding need for answers, for the truth that eluded you before. Alone. Giant gantries, like skeletal beasts, loom against the bruised twilight sky, their cables groaning under the strain of unseen loads. The rhythmic clang of metal on metal, the distant blare of a ship's horn, and the rumble of heavy machinery create a symphony of industrial might. You navigate the labyrinth of stacked containers, their corrugated sides scarred with rust and faded shipping labels, each one a silent vault of goods from distant shores. You find him by a cluster of towering blue containers, bathed in the sickly yellow glow of a single security lamp. He stands beside a nondescript sedan, its engine a low thrum against the backdrop of the port. As you approach, he nods, his face a study in guarded neutrality. The old files, he states, his voice low, almost swallowed by the ambient noise. He opens the rear passenger door. On the seat, a sturdy, worn leather briefcase sits, its clasp glinting faintly. Everything from the original investigation. And a few things. New. You eye the briefcase, a Pandora's box of your past. What new? The contact's gaze sweeps the desolate bay, lingering on a distant, brightly lit ship. Connections. Ones that weren't visible when you first looked. The journalist, Thorne, he wasn't just chasing a story. He was chasing a ghost that's now walking the earth again. You take the briefcase. Its weight is familiar, the solid thud against your thigh a physical manifestation of the burden you've just accepted. Where do I start? Start where you left off. His notes. His sources. And then, look for the names that weren't there before. The ones that have risen since. Political figures. Industrial magnates. You clench your jaw, the cold air doing little to numb the sudden ache. I didn't create silence. I failed to break it. Semantics, the contact replies, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. The outcome was the same. Now, you have a chance to change it. Back in the solitary confines of your small apartment, the briefcase lies open on your scarred kitchen table. The overhead light casts a harsh glow on its contents, stacks of yellowed police reports, crime scene. Photos now faded at the edges, witness statements typed on archaic machines, and, most damningly, the meticulous, handwritten notes of the murdered journalist. You pick up a thick manila folder labeled Thorne, Marcus' victim. The name, so close to your own, sends a shiver through you. Marcus Thorne, the brilliant investigative journalist, not Marcus Thorne, the disgraced detective. You remember the case, the dead end, the frustration. The official conclusion, a random street robbery gone wrong. A life extinguished for a wallet and a cheap watch. You had never truly believed it. Your fingers trace the crisp, precise handwriting in his personal journal. Dates, times, names, all neatly catalogued. You sift through the journalist's notes, comparing them to the police files. The official reports are clinical, detached. The journalist's entries are vibrant, full of urgency and veiled warnings. He'd been tracking a series of shell corporations, seemingly innocuous entities with obscure directors, all linked by a common, unusual legal firm. At the time, you'd dismissed it as a dead-end lead, just another layer of corporate obfuscation. Now, a name in the journalist's ledger catches your eye: Viridian Holdings LLC. Below it, a scrawled note: Coastal Development Project, Senator Davies. You remember Senator Davies, then a rising star, now a prominent politician on the verge of a presidential campaign. But in the years since your downfall, Davies's campaign had championed a massive coastal revitalization initiative, one that had, conveniently, absorbed several smaller, struggling development projects, including the very one Viridian Holdings had once proposed. The journalist wasn't killed for his wallet. He was killed because he was too close to connecting the dots between obscure corporate interests and the nascent political ambitions of a man who would one day vie for the highest office. The random act was a carefully constructed lie. The game has changed, and you, Marcus, are now officially in play. The scent of diesel and brine clings to the air, a metallic tang that scrapes at the back of your throat. The hum of distant machinery is a low thrum against the vast silence, a steady beat beneath the clamor of your own thoughts. You stand, Marcus, a man adrift, then a man tethered by a thread of hope, the promise of a second chance burning like a pilot light in the gloom. The first step is always the hardest, a plunge into the cold waters of memory. You navigate the city streets, the familiar grid a map of forgotten battles, each turn a reminder of the life you once had. The old case, the journalist's murder, is a scar etched deep, a wound that never truly healed. Now, it reopens, weeping with fresh purpose. You arrive at the apartment building, a brick edifice muted by time and urban grime. It stands as a mausoleum to a life abruptly extinguished, the very air around it seeming to hold its breath. He remembers you, Marcus Thorne, the detective who couldn't close the book. You again, the superintendent grunts, his voice a gravelly whisper. Still closed. Just looking, you reply, your voice a calm counterpoint to the tension in his eyes. A final look. He hesitates, then shrugs, a gesture of resignation. Suit yourself. But there's nothing to find. They cleaned it out, years ago. He gestures vaguely towards the apartment door, then shuffles away, leaving you alone in the quiet corridor, the faint scent of old dust and regret hanging heavy. The apartment itself is a shell, stripped bare of personal history. The walls, once vibrant with a journalist's life, are now a sterile off-white, the floorboards gleaming with a recent polish. Yet, to your eyes, the room is still a canvas of the past, the ghost of a struggle lingering in the faint scuff marks near the window, the almost imperceptible indentation where a heavy piece of furniture once stood. You walk the perimeter, your gaze dissecting every surface, every angle, remembering the initial chaos, the forensic teams, the fruitless search. You run your hand along the cold windowsill, then trace the edge of a built-in bookshelf, now empty. It's a quiet meditation, a communion with the echoes of violence. Your fingers brush against a loose panel at the very back of the lowest shelf, hidden behind where a stack of large, unwieldy books would have sat. A faint click, almost imperceptible. You pry it open, revealing a shallow, narrow cavity, easily missed. Inside, nestled in the dust, is a single item, a worn leather-bound pocket journal, no bigger than your palm. Its pages are yellowed, its cover scuffed, but intact. This wasn't found during the original sweep. This was hidden. A jolt of adrenaline courses through you. The journalist, even in their final moments, was thinking, planning. You open the journal, the brittle pages crackling softly. Most of it is filled with shorthand notes, observations, and contact numbers, a journalist's typical working life. But near the back, tucked between two seemingly innocuous entries, is a carefully drawn diagram. Beneath it, a single, cryptic phrase, scrawled in a frantic hand, the veiled hand reaches for the deep. The journal is a jolt, a physical manifestation of the forgotten. You pocket the journal, the leather warm against your palm, a tangible link to the past, a compass pointing towards a future you can barely comprehend. Your next stop is a dimly lit bar, a haven for the city's underbelly and its information brokers. He's older now, his face etched with more lines, his eyes holding a weary caution. Marcus Thorne, the contact says. His voice flat, devoid of surprise. Heard you were sniffing around. He doesn't offer a handshake, just a slow sip of his amber liquid. The journalist's case. You begin, cutting straight to it. It's back. He exhales slowly, a plume of smoke curling towards the low ceiling. Some things are best left buried. Marcus. Especially when the ground is still shaking. What do you know? You press, leaning forward, your voice low but insistent. About certain individuals. Powerful individuals. Who don't like old stories being told again. But you push on. There's another source, a retired archivist who once worked for the city's municipal planning department, a quiet man who knew the city's infrastructure like the back of his hand. He lives in a small, cluttered apartment filled with stacks of old blueprints and maps. He greets you with a wary politeness, his spectacles perched low on his nose. You show him a photocopy of the journal's cryptic map. His hand trembles as he points a finger at the anchor symbol. This is a very old marker. For the forgotten tunnels beneath the old dockyards. They were sealed off decades ago. Officially, they don't exist. And unofficially, you prompt, your heart beginning to beat a faster rhythm. He looks away, his gaze fixed on a faded map tacked to his wall. There were rumors. Always rumors. Of certain groups. Using them for discrete movements. Out of sight. Out of mind. He pauses, then turns back to you, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. But you must understand, Marcus, asking about these tunnels. Powerful things. Things that will lash out if disturbed. He looks at you, his eyes pleading. You're opening a door you might not be able to close. They don't want this case reopened. They never did. You clutch the journal tighter, the leather warm against your palm, a beacon in the encroaching gloom. The case is no longer just about a murdered journalist, it's about a hidden truth, and powerful forces determined to keep it buried. The journalist's ghost whispers in your mind, a phantom weight pressing down. The cryptic map, now spread across your worn desk, feels less like an artifact and more like a living thing, its lines and symbols breathing a cold truth. The archivist's frantic eyes, the contact's hushed warnings about the network, they crystallize into a single, terrifying image, a vast, unseen machinery churning beneath the city's facade. A name, Viridian Logistics, appears with disturbing frequency, often alongside mentions of the politician's burgeoning campaign. A shell company, you deduce, a phantom limb of a larger, more sinister body. Its reported operations are vague, its registered address a post office box, yet its purported contracts are with entities linked to the politician's most ambitious infrastructure projects. This isn't just a story of corruption, it's a meticulously woven tapestry of control. A shiver snakes down your spine. This private holding facility must be a keynote in their network, and the port, its gateway. Towering stacks of containers form a labyrinthine skyline, their corrugated metal skins reflecting the gray afternoon light. Gulls cry overhead, their calls sharp against the constant thrum of distant machinery. You move with a practiced stealth, a ghost among the steel giants, your eyes scanning for anything out of place. This place, a nexus of global commerce, feels like the perfect cover for clandestine operations. You find the specific bay, a cavernous space where forklifts hum and customs officials in crisp uniforms oversee the meticulous unloading of goods. Your focus narrows on a particular section, cordoned off with temporary barriers, where a single, oversized container sits isolated. Its steel gleams, unmarked save for a small, almost invisible logo, a stylized, interlocking V and L, the Viridian Logistics insignia. Your breath catches. This is it. This is the link. A customs officer, a burly man with a clipboard, approaches the container, his movements deliberate. The suit, you notice, wears a small pin on his lapel, a subtle emblem you recognize from the politician's campaign rallies. This isn't just a corporate shell, it's a direct conduit. The customs officer begins his inspection, but his movements are perfunctory, almost theatrical. He runs a scanner over the container, a mere formality. The man in the suit watches him, a faint, predatory smile playing on his lips. This isn't a legitimate inspection, it's a staged performance. A reflection in the polished surface of a nearby container. Not your own. Another. You freeze, your muscles tensing. You feel the prickle of eyes on your back, the sudden, undeniable certainty of being watched. The air thickens, the drone of the port fading into a distant hum. You pivot, your instincts screaming. The figure is closer now, a hulking shape, silent as a predator. No words are exchanged, no warning issued. Only the glint of something metallic in his hand as he lunges. The impact of the wrench against the metal container behind you rings out like a gunshot, echoing through the vast space. The attacker is relentless, a silent, determined force. You scramble, pushing off the ground, adrenaline surging through your veins. You see a narrow gap between two colossal containers, a potential escape route. Another swing, this one aimed at your legs. You leap, twisting your body, the wrench grazing your pant leg, tearing the fabric. He raises a hand, a silent command to the hulking figure. This isn't intimidation, this is an execution. You burst through the gap, not looking back, your lungs burning. The sounds of pursuit are muffled by the labyrinthine structure of the port, but you feel their presence, a palpable threat nipping at your heels. You hear a sharp whistle, then another, signaling your direction. They are coordinating. You emerge from the cargo bay, gasping, into the open expanse of the docks, the vast gray ocean stretching out before you. You glance back, seeing two figures, now joined by a third, fanning out, systematically searching. They are not giving up. Not now. Not ever. The stakes have just been confirmed, Marcus. And now, they know you are coming. You trace a finger along a jagged path, a route that winds through the city's underbelly, a forgotten artery leading to the churning heart of commerce. The final destination, circled in a hasty, almost desperate hand, is a place you know too well, a place of endless comings and goings, of secrets hidden in plain sight. The city exhales a metallic breath as your vehicle cuts through the twilight. Haze. Streetlights bleed into the damp asphalt, reflecting your grim resolve. The map, now folded and tucked into your jacket, hums against your chest, a silent compass guiding you toward an uncomfortable reckoning. You navigate the labyrinthine streets, the scent of exhaust fumes mingling with the faint, briny tang of the sea. Each turn brings you closer to the Leviathan's maw, the place where the world's goods are swallowed and regurgitated. The air vibrates with the growl of diesel engines, the clang of shifting containers, the distant, mournful cry of a ship's horn. The scale of it all is immense, dwarfing you, a single figure against the backdrop of global trade. You move with practiced stealth, a ghost among the gargantuan machinery. Your gaze sweeps across the numbered containers, the bustling forklifts, the uniformed figures moving with purpose. She wouldn't have marked a random spot. Here, the containers are fewer, older, some draped in tarpaulins that flap like tattered wings in the unseen breeze. A faint, almost imperceptible hum guides you, a mechanical pulse beneath the industrial din. No visible locks, no obvious markings. Yet, the hum is strongest here, emanating from within. Your fingers trace the cold metal, searching for a seam, a hidden latch. A subtle indentation, almost imperceptible, gives way under your touch. A panel slides back with a soft hiss, revealing not a cavernous interior, but a narrow, concealed compartment. Inside, tucked amongst a scattering of old manifests and dusty logbooks, lies a worn leather-bound journal. Its cover is familiar, the kind of bespoke craftsmanship only a select few could afford. Your breath catches, a sudden constriction in your chest. This journal. It belonged to a former colleague, a man you once trusted implicitly, a mentor whose word was iron. The very same colleague who had overseen the initial, perfunctory investigation into the journalist's murder, the one who had declared it a random, isolated act. Your fingers tremble as you pull it free. The leather is cool against your skin, yet a searing heat spreads through you. You flip it open, the pages stiff with disuse. The script is undeniably his, precise and angular. Not case notes, but personal observations, dates, and names. A recurring reference to the project, a term you recognize from an old, discarded case from your early days, a case you and he had worked on together, a case that had mysteriously vanished from the official records. The journalist's name appears, not as a victim. The man who guided your early steps, who vouched for your integrity, who had dismissed the journalist's death as meaningless, had known. He had known, and he had hidden it, perhaps even played a part in silencing her. The project wasn't just a forgotten file, it was a living conspiracy, and your trusted colleague was at its rotten core. A bitter taste floods your mouth, sharper than any regret. This isn't just about justice anymore, it's about a wound carved deep into your own past, a betrayal that echoes through the corridors of your memory. The hunt has just begun, and the prey wears a familiar face. The world did not merely tilt, it fractured. The word, unspoken yet screaming in your mind, was known. He had known. The man whose shadow had lengthened over your earliest steps, whose praise had felt like sunlight, had been complicit. He had watched the truth of the journalist's death be buried, dismissed it as a random tragedy, and allowed your own career to crumble in its wake. The bitter taste of that realization, sharp as broken glass, fills your mouth, eclipsing all other senses for a moment. Then, a fragment of memory, a whispered caution from a contact you'd met in a grimy back alley days ago, resurfaces. A hurried, fragmented phrase about ghost shipments and a certain port had seemed nonsensical then, a desperate man's ramblings. Now, with the weight of your mentor's betrayal pressing down, it crystallizes. The journalist had been chasing something massive, something hidden in plain sight, something that flowed through the veins of the city's underbelly, past the watchful eyes. Something that arrived by sea. Colossal cranes, skeletal against the bruised sky, dip and rise with rhythmic groans, plucking containers from the bellies of ships like toys. The symphony of the docks, the hiss of air brakes, the distant blare of a ship's horn, the ceaseless thrum of engines is a relentless, disorienting force. You move with a practiced invisibility, your gaze sweeping over the endless rows of stacked steel boxes, each a potential vault for secrets. It had seemed like a dead end, a list of mundane cargo. But the contact's words about ghost shipments now echo. You seek a specific container, not by its destination, but by its unusual routing, its expedited clearance, a phantom among the legitimate. It's nestled amidst a cluster of newer units, marked for agricultural machinery. Too clean, too quiet. You feel it, a prickle on your skin, the same way you always knew when a lie was being spun. A quick, practiced manipulation of a rusted latch, a moment of focused leverage, and the heavy door groans open. The interior is dim, smelling of stale air and something metallic. Inside, not tractors or harvesters, but crates of what appear to be medical supplies. Bandages, syringes, sterile wipes. Mundane. Too mundane. You recall the journalist's last, unfinished article draft, found on a crumpled notepad, mentioning phantom medical aid deliveries. You begin to search, your hands moving with the precision of a surgeon. It's a small, heavy-duty pelican case, no bigger than a brick, tucked into a false bottom. Unmarked. Unregistered. Your breath catches. This is it. This is the pulse of the hidden thing. The case is locked, but your old skills, sharpened by desperation, have not atrophied. A series of calculated movements, a quiet click, and the lid springs open. Inside, nestled in foam, is a single, encrypted data drive. No labels, no identifying marks. Just a small, black rectangle holding an unknown universe. Back in the relative quiet of your borrowed, anonymous vehicle, the drive hums softly as it connects to your scavenged laptop. The decryption software, a relic from your more sanctioned days, whirs to life. The progress bar crawls, each percentage point an agonizing stretch of time, while the port's distant clamor fades into a muffled roar. Your fingers tap a nervous rhythm on the steering wheel, the tension a coil tightening in your gut. Then, the screen floods with data. Not just files, but a meticulously organized digital ledger, encrypted communications, and high-resolution photographs. The air leaves your lungs in a silent gasp. The ledger details a vast, intricate network of illicit financial transactions, routing through shell companies and offshore accounts. Their true purpose, influence peddling, the systematic acquisition of power through corruption and blackmail. The photographs are damning. Images of the prominent politician, shaking hands with known operatives of the organization, not in public forums, but in discreet, dimly lit private gatherings. There are blueprints for what appear to be secure, unregistered facilities, underground bunkers, abandoned factories repurposed. They are dated weeks before the journalist's murder. Details the journalist's impending exposure of this very cargo operation, the phantom medical aid as a front for illicit arms or stolen technology. Funded by the politician and facilitated by the organization. And then, the final, crushing blow. A reply in the chain, from an encrypted address you recognize, an address tied to a secure server your former department used for high-level, sensitive communications. The sender's code name, unique and known only to a select few, is unmistakably your mentor's. The matter will be handled. Expedite the dismissal of any collateral damage. Collateral damage. That was you. Your career. Your life. The journalist's life. The screen flickers, reflecting your own stunned face, a mosaic of anger, grief, and a burning, righteous fury. The weight of the truth is a physical burden, yet it also sharpens your resolve into an unyielding blade. The conspiracy is not a ghost, it is a monstrous, living entity, its tendrils reaching into the highest echelons of power, its roots nourished by betrayal. There is no turning back now. The personal cost is already paid, exacted in the currency of your reputation, your peace, your trust. But now, armed with irrefutable proof, you understand the true scope of the battle. You will pursue this, not for redemption, but for justice. For the journalist, for your own tarnished name, and for the fabric of truth your mentor helped tear apart. The fight has just begun. You rise from the worn chair, the data on the display, the encrypted ledger, the coded message, the undeniable link, a brand seared into your mind. Collateral damage. That was you. Your career. Your life. The journalist's life. No longer a whisper, the conspiracy roars in your ears, a tide of injustice threatening to drown everything. The air outside is a sudden, sharp slap against your face, colder than you expected. A flicker in a shop window catches your eye, a news report, a grainy image of you. Disgraced former detective Marcus Thorne sought for questioning in connection with. The words blur, but the implication is stark. They know. They've moved. The net is cast, and you are its quarry. The hunter has become the hunted, a fugitive in the labyrinthine city you once swore to protect. A tremor of primal fear snakes through you, but it is quickly eclipsed by a surge of defiant adrenaline. You are unburdened by badge or protocol now, a lone wolf with nothing left to lose but the last shred of your integrity. Your phone, a dead weight in your pocket, remains silent. No calls. No allies. Not yet. You need information, specific and untainted by their influence. The journey is a ballet of evasion. You weave through back alleys, skirt the edges of brightly lit thoroughfares, your senses heightened, every distant siren a drumbeat of pursuit. You move with the practiced grace of a predator, hugging the periphery, your eyes scanning for blind spots, for the familiar, slouching figure of the dock supervisor. You find him in the dim glow of a portable work light, hunched over a manifest clipboard, his face etched with fatigue. He jumps, the clipboard clattering. They're looking for you, Thorne. The word's out. You're hot. I know, you reply, your voice a gravelly murmur. I need help. One last time. He studies you, his gaze piercing. What is it this time? Another ghost from your past? The journalist, you say, the name a raw wound. And the politician. They're connected. I need to know about a specific shipment. Something that came through here months ago. Something that shouldn't have been here. He chews on his lip, his eyes darting towards a distant security patrol. That's heavy, Marcus. Too heavy for me. It's heavier for me, you counter, a steel edge in your tone. The truth died with that journalist. Don't let it stay buried here, too. He sighs, a defeated sound, then gestures towards a small, cluttered office trailer. Come on. But make it quick. My shift supervisor is on the prowl. Inside the cramped trailer, the air is stale, thick with the smell of stale coffee and paperwork. He pulls out a dusty ledger, flipping through pages with practiced efficiency. What dates? Late spring, early summer, you offer, racking your memory for the timeline the journalist's notes suggested. Around the time the politician's campaign started picking up steam. Look for anything unusual. Anything flagged, even subtly. Maybe something that disappeared too quickly. He traces a finger down a column of entries, mumbling to himself. Standard cargo. Bulk goods. Auto parts. Wait. His finger stops. Here. May 17th. A shipment of medical supplies from a shell company registered in Panama. Fast-tracked clearance. No physical inspection. Signed off by a higher authority than usual. Your breath catches. Medical supplies? Who signed it? He points to a signature, elegant and looping, at the bottom of the entry. Recognize that? Your eyes scan the name, your blood turning to ice. It's the deputy campaign manager for the prominent politician, a name you'd seen on campaign literature, a trusted aide. It's them. And the container number. It's been recycled. Scrubbed from the active logs within a week. That doesn't happen unless someone wants it to vanish. The pieces snap into place with a horrifying clarity. Not just a random murder, but a meticulously orchestrated cover-up, a conspiracy woven into the very fabric of power. The medical supplies were a front, a Trojan horse for something far more sinister, something the journalist had stumbled upon. A sudden, sharp knock rattles the trailer door. "Griggs. You in there? Got a problem with Manifest 4B. Griggs's head snaps up, his face paling. That's the supervisor. You gotta go, Marcus. Now. He shoves the ledger back into its slot, his movements frantic. You nod, already moving, your mind a storm of revelations and new dangers. The deputy campaign manager. The recycled container. The private warehouse. This wasn't just about a murder, it was about the corruption of an entire system. The urgent shouts of the supervisor, the distant wail of a police siren, they are not just background noise now. They are the sound of the hunt, tightening around you. You are no longer just seeking redemption, you are fighting for survival, a ghost in the machine, armed with a truth too dangerous to be spoken aloud. The recycled container. The private warehouse. Each a thread in a widening tapestry of deceit, now woven into a suffocating shroud around the truth. Your mind, a crucible of calculated fury, forges these fragments into a singular, undeniable narrative. This wasn't merely about a murder, it was the rot at the core, a systemic corrosion reaching for the highest office. You had the pieces, but you needed the keystone, the irrefutable evidence that would shatter their carefully constructed edifice of lies. Here, where the world's arteries converge and diverge, where goods are weighed and scrutinized, lies the final thread. The container, once a phantom, now a ghost of an accomplice. Its journey, its true contents, its ultimate destination, these were the secrets it still held, buried deep within the bureaucratic labyrinth of shipping manifests and digital ledgers. You move with the predatory grace of a hunter closing in, your determination a cold flame in your chest. Inside, the port is a symphony of industrial might. Cranes, skeletal giants against the bruised sky, hoist colossal containers with a grinding groan, their cargo swaying like pendulous fruit. Forklifts start and weave, their engines a persistent hum. The air vibrates with the raw energy of commerce and the silent weight of countless secrets. You navigate the maze of stacked steel, each box a potential vault, each number a cipher in a vast, global code. Your destination is the administrative annex, a low, brick building nestled amidst the towering stacks, its windows smudged with the grime of industry. Inside, the fluorescent hum is a stark contrast to the port's outdoor roar. A lone clerk, his spectacles perched on the tip of his nose, looks up from a screen, his gaze devoid of curiosity. You present the aged badge, a relic of a different life, and a story about an audit, a missing shipment, a bureaucratic tangle. He points you to the digital archive terminal, a blinking portal to the port's memory. Your fingers dance across the keyboard, a practiced rhythm of inquiry. The specific container number, the one linked to the private warehouse, the one the deputy campaign manager had repurposed, you punch it in. The system whirs, accessing decades of global transit. You scroll through its history, its manufacture in a distant land, its first voyage, its countless cargo loads. You trace its path, not just its recent, fabricated journey, but its true, unvarnished past. And then, it appears. A manifest from years ago, dated mere weeks before the journalist's murder. The container, at that time, was not empty, not merely recycled. It was filled. An offshore account, a numbered bank in a tax haven, directly linked to the politicians' burgeoning campaign funds. This was it. The journalist wasn't just investigating a politician's rise, they were on the verge of exposing a vast, illegal smuggling ring, a black market operation funneling stolen heritage and untaxed wealth to fuel a presidential ambition. The recycled container wasn't just a convenient cover for the murder weapon, it was a physical testament to the very crime the journalist was about to reveal. The murder, then, was not merely an act of desperation but a calculated silencing, protecting an empire built on stolen goods and compromised ethics. You download the digital records, encrypting them to a secure drive, your movements precise, economical. The proof is undeniable. A direct, damning line from a specific container, through a network of shell corporations, to the politicians' illicit finances, and finally, to the motive for the journalist's untimely end. The keystone. Stepping back into the bracing air of the port, the noise and chaos now seem to recede, replaced by a singular, resonant hum within you. The time for subtlety is over. The time for waiting is past. You gaze at the towering stacks of containers, each a silent witness to 1,000 journeys, 1,000 secrets. With a single, deliberate message, you send the coordinates of the damning evidence, a digital breadcrumb, to the deputy campaign manager. The message is stark, devoid of emotion, a direct challenge: I have everything. The original manifest. The offshore accounts. The link to the journalist's death. You have one chance to bring me the architect of this charade. Tomorrow. Midnight. The abandoned factory on the old waterfront. Alone. You hit send. The factory will be a den of wolves. But you have their scent, and now, you hold the thread that will unravel them all. Your determination has sharpened into a blade, honed for the confrontation that awaits. Above, a skeletal gantry crane, a silhouette against the bruised twilight, stands sentinel. The vast expanse stretches before you, a labyrinth of stacked containers, their corrugated steel skins painted in faded primary colors, forming canyons and makeshift fortresses. Each metallic clang, each distant groan of shifting cargo, echoes with a hollow resonance that seems to magnify the silence of the immediate space. You are alone in this desolate cathedral of commerce, or so it appears. Your breath plumes in the frigid air, a fleeting ghost. The air tastes of diesel and salt, a metallic tang that promises something sharp and final. Your hand instinctively brushes the worn leather of the holster beneath your jacket, a familiar weight that offers little comfort against the gnawing certainty that this is their chosen ground. A trap, yes, but one you have walked into with open eyes, your gaze unwavering. A low hum vibrates through the concrete floor, growing steadily, then a sudden, jarring thud. From behind a towering stack of cobalt blue containers, a flatbed truck emerges, its headlights cutting through the gloom like predatory eyes. It stops, engine idling, a growling beast. They are the enforcers, the blunt instruments of a hidden power. Then, from the driver's side, a third figure steps out. Smaller, sharper, their silhouette framed by the truck's glow. It holds the weight of every late night, every dead end, every ghost that has haunted your waking hours. The orchestrator smiles, a thin, humorless curve of the lips. A trail? You speak of phantoms, Thorne. There is nothing here but you, a disgraced detective, and the end of your pathetic crusade. They gesture vaguely to the surrounding containers, a silent testament to the vastness of their reach. No one knows you are here. You press on, the adrenaline sharpening your mind, honing your focus. The journalist wasn't killed for a random story, was he? He found the ledger. The orchestrator raises a hand, a subtle command for patience. Speculation, Thorne. The one that displaced hundreds, leaving a trail of ruined lives and a tidy profit for the politicians' silent partners? You watch the orchestrator's eyes, searching for the tell, the subtle shift that betrays their carefully constructed composure. He was close to publishing. Too close. He had the names, the dates, the bank transfers. He had it all. And you have nothing, the orchestrator retorts, their voice hardening. Just the ramblings of a desperate man. I have the truth, you say, your gaze unwavering. The journalist's last message, encrypted and hidden, pointed directly to you. To this operation. To the network of influence you built to protect the politician. He knew you were the one pulling the strings, orchestrating the cover-up, manipulating the narratives. You step closer, the distance between you shrinking, the tension coiling tighter with each stride. He was going to expose the politician not just as corrupt. Their eyes narrow, reflecting the harsh glare of the truck's headlights. And how, pray tell, do you intend to prove this grand delusion? The data I sent, you declare, a tremor of defiance in your voice. The compiled evidence, the copies of the ledger, the politician's encrypted communications with your network. It's all out there now. If I don't walk out of here, if I don't confirm my safety within the hour, it goes public. Every single detail. Every dirty secret. Their eyes, once calculating, now burn with a dangerous fire. You foolish, foolish man, they hiss, the words dripping with venom. You truly believe you can outmaneuver us? Before the last syllable leaves their lips, the orchestrator gives a sharp nod. The two enforcers move as one, their bulky forms closing the distance with surprising speed. You are ready. The truth, now unleashed, is your only weapon. The air, thick with the dust of disturbed crates and the lingering scent of fear, settles around you like a shroud. A dull ache thrums in your temples, a counterpoint to the adrenaline that now recedes, leaving a tremor in your hands. The orchestrator, their finely tailored suit now rumpled and torn, lies sprawled against a stack of industrial-sized pallets, a thin trickle of blood tracing a path from their temple to the concrete floor. Their eyes, though narrowed in defeat, still hold a venomous glint, a refusal to break. The two enforcers are secured, their bulky frames hogtied with repurposed cargo straps, their grunts of frustration muffled by the thick tape across their mouths. The chaos of your impromptu battlefield begins to crystallize into a grim tableau. You move with practiced precision, your gaze sweeping the scene for any lingering threats, any forgotten piece of the puzzle. Your breath comes in ragged gasps, each one a testament to the brutal dance you've just performed. The weight of the moment, the sheer audacity of what you've just accomplished, presses down on you. This is not the clean, sterile arrest of your former life, this is the raw, visceral consequence of chasing ghosts in the shadows. A low moan escapes the orchestrator's lips. You kneel, ignoring the sharp pain in your knee, your eyes locking with theirs. It's over, you state, your voice rough, raspy from exertion. Is it? The orchestrator retorts, a sneer twisting their lip. You've merely pruned a branch, Thorne. The roots run deeper than your fractured mind can comprehend. Their hand, surprisingly swift despite their weakened state, darts towards an inner pocket of their jacket. Your reflexes, honed by years of anticipation and a recent baptism of fire, are faster. You slam your palm down on their wrist, the bone grinding against the floor. From the pocket, a small, obsidian black data chip clatters onto the concrete. It gleams dully under the harsh fluorescent lights, a tiny shard of digital truth. The orchestrator's eyes widen, a flicker of genuine alarm replacing their earlier defiance. Looking for this, you muse, picking it up. It feels impossibly light, yet its potential weight could topple empires. You notice a curious detail, a small, intricately carved silver pin, shaped like a serpent entwined around a stylized oak, affixed to the orchestrator's lapel. It's not just an adornment, it bears the unmistakable mark of a clandestine society, one whispered about in hushed tones among the very powerful. The distant wail of sirens pierces the industrial hum, growing louder, closer. Reinforcements. It is the cavalry, arriving late, as it always seems to do in your life. Soon, the bay is swarming. He begins, his voice low, "What in God's name have you done here?" You hold up the data chip. His brow furrowed as he examines it. "You're saying this links the orchestrator to the politician?" "More than that," you confirm, pointing to the silver serpent and oak pin still on the orchestrator's lapel. "It links them to the organization that pulls the strings. This chip, I believe, contains everything." A colleague, younger, with an eager glint in their eyes, approaches, speaking into a secure comms device. "Sir, confirmation on the orchestrator's identity, and..." Cross-referencing their known associates is pulling up some very high-profile names, including the politician's campaign manager and several key donors. The words hang in the air, heavy with implications. The detective's eyes, normally sharp and cynical, now hold a rare glint of shock. This changes everything. The presidential campaign, the whole election. He shakes his head slowly, a grim realization dawning. The public reaction to this. The truth is out. The pieces are finally in place, but the cost. The ghost of the murdered journalist seems to hover at the edge of your vision, their sacrifice finally vindicated. Your own reputation, once shattered, now feels like a fragile thing, slowly piecing itself back together under the harsh glare of public scrutiny. As the orchestrator is led away, their eyes meet yours one last time. You watch them go, the heavy thud of their boots on the concrete fading into the distance. You turn to the detective, the weariness settling deep into your bones. "We need to secure this chip. Every byte of data. And then we need to prepare for the fallout." The redemption you sought feels less like a triumph and more like the beginning of an even longer, more arduous journey. The personal cost of this victory, you realize, is not yet fully tallied. You have opened a Pandora's box, and the world is about to witness its contents. The silence descends upon you, thick and heavy, a blanket woven from the absence of their footsteps. The metallic tang of sea air, once sharp with the scent of impending conflict, now carries only the stale echo of spent adrenaline. You stand amidst the remnants of the storm, the ground beneath your boots still vibrating with the memory of the struggle. A dull ache thrums behind your eyes, a counterpoint to the quiet tremor in your hands. The cold case, a specter that clung to your every waking moment, now lies exposed, its grotesque anatomy laid bare. The journalist, brilliant and fearless, had stumbled upon the same insidious network you'd once brushed against, the very one that had consumed your career, then tried to consume your life. Their murder, once a riddle wrapped in bureaucratic indifference, now screams its truth, a calculated silencing, a brutal message from those who pull strings from the highest echelons. You remember the first time you saw the journalist's file, years ago. The meticulous notes, the half-finished leads, the audacious theories that mirrored your own nascent suspicions. Back then, you'd been too green, too trusting of the system to see the wall rising against you. The politician's name, then just a whisper in the periphery, now blared like a siren, an undeniable link in the chain of corruption. The organization, a phantom then, solidified into a monstrous reality in this very bay. The thrum of an engine grows, followed by the crunch of tires on gravel. A small convoy of official vehicles pulls into the bay, their strobes flashing blue and red, a silent declaration of the law's arrival. A colleague, there, face etched with a weariness that mirrors your own, steps out first, followed by a team of evidence collectors and uniformed officers. Marcus, the colleague's voice is low, a gravelly sound in the sudden swell of activity. It's done. You nod, the simple affirmation feeling monumental. It is done, not perfectly, not entirely, but enough. The immediate threat neutralized, the undeniable evidence secured. The hard drives, the encrypted files, the meticulously documented ledgers you'd wrestled from the operative's grip, they were all here, undeniable proof of the politician's complicity, of the organization's reach. This wasn't just a hunch anymore, it was concrete, digital, irrefutable. You watch as the evidence team moves with practiced efficiency, their gloved hands carefully cataloging the detritus of the confrontation. Each item, each spent casing, each smear of oil on the concrete, a silent witness to the night's desperate ballet. This particular skirmish was over, but the war, you knew, would continue. The Hydra had lost a head, but its body remained, its roots burrowed deep into the fabric of the city. You led us right to them, the colleague says, stepping closer, their voice quiet, almost reverent. Everything you said, everything you suspected. It was all there. A faint smile touches your lips, a rare, fleeting thing. It wasn't about being right, not anymore. It was about seeing the truth, finally, clearly, without the haze of doubt or the sting of past failure. The journalist's ambition, their relentless pursuit of justice, had been mirrored in your own desperate quest for redemption. And in this desolate bay, amidst the clatter of official activity, you found it. Not a clean slate, perhaps, but a path forward, unburdened by the crushing weight of what might have been. The intricate web of lies, the financial trails, the clandestine meetings, they all converged here, revealing a network designed to manipulate elections and control resources, with the politician as a key puppet. Their death was not random, it was a desperate, brutal measure to protect the impending presidential bid and the vast power it promised. This was the full, horrifying truth. You turn your back on the receding tide of blue and red lights, on the ordered chaos of the investigation. The badge might be gone, the official title a distant memory, but a different kind of purpose now takes root within you. A quiet resolve. You have confronted them, dragged them into the harsh light, and found a measure of peace in the struggle. The path ahead is uncertain, uncharted, perhaps fraught with new dangers.